From an introduction, I think Chitra mentioned a lot. I'm more an HR professional. I have started my career 15 years in HR. I have done my MBA from Symbiosis in HR. And I have always felt that sales is just not my job. Even then, I did not know that I'm selling talent at the end of the day to my clients, that how great we are in terms of talent. But, that was never my mindset, right? But when I started my own venture, I saw the most predominant 80% work that you're doing is selling to the people whom you're hiring, selling to the investors, selling to the people whom you're telling what you're doing, selling to the customers. You're doing in every other medium. What you're doing is you're just selling. You of course you try, you learn. I joined Chitra's team more to understand and learn from her, and slowly I realized that okay, no, it's not that bad. We can do it. Like, even in fact, it was a taboo area for me. I would have never changed my field to a salesperson, and I never changed being an entrepreneur because I will be a salesperson. Had I known that, probably I would have be rethinking what I'm doing. But having said that, I feel that we can do it. And I am a pure play introvert person. I will not even scale myself somewhere in between. I'm more an introvert person. Given a choice today also, I'll take my drink and stand in the corner rather than going to this event and meeting a lot of people. I will wait for the people to come to me and meet. So this is the reason that this subject is very close to my heart. Now, why do we have the Three Idiots photo to begin with, right? So in this is a very popular movie. I'm sure everyone has seen this movie, most of you, right? So there were three characters, right? One was, of course, the Ranchor Singh Rathod, the Amir Khan, who was the hero, a very bubbly person, always against a lot of things, doesn't believe in systems. He was, questioning the education system. Then we had Madhavan, who was a more neutral person. And then we had the other person who was very scared of exams. If you remember his interview, he was very scared of to go, and there was a lot of fear, a lot of things that was going on in his home. But later he kind of come out, and we see that he has been in US and he was doing well in his life. So now in this three, whom will you say an extrovert and whom will you say an introvert?
All are introverts. Amir Khan is an extrovert.
Okay.
Neha says all are introverts.
All are, okay, Amir Khan is an extrovert. All are intros. Yeah, any other answer?
Madhavan and the other guy whose name I don't remember are introverts, and Amir Khan is an extrovert.
So it's very difficult for us to really put a pin on extrovert and introvert, and sometimes we might see people changing often. So my next question to you is, can an introvert become an extrovert and an extrovert become an introvert? And so let me take a dive down into what the psychology says or what the science says, right? So this whole introvert and extrovert concept comes from Carl Jung. Introvert and extrovert is a personality profile, right? So when you say personalities primarily don't change. We all are in the range. No one is 100% pure peace, bahut kam milega. It will be range. And 60-70% of us is ambivert, which is in the middle of it, which is more or less, but we have a tendency. We are either tended more towards an introvert, or our tendency is more an extrovert. Source of energy is very different from an introvert and an extrovert. So if you are trying to find yourself whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I think this is the first question that you ask yourself, that what do you wait for? And be brutally honest about it. The emotional bend of mind. Science said, whether we agree, whether we don't agree, whether we are happy, whether we are not happy, the science said emotional bend of extrovert people are towards more positive and more optimistic, right? They are more optimistic and they are more positive. They are more gung-ho about things, right? And people who are introvert by nature, they may not have negative emotion, but they are generally neutral. So the cultural acceptance. Now, this is also one of the major things. There is nothing wrong or good or bad about it, because in Western culture, children are, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you're mostly trained to be an extrovert from your childhood. They only accept the extroverts mostly. Maybe now trends are changing, but if you see in corporate, that's why, in corporate culture also, extrovert culture is more, people are appreciative, easily recognized, people who are visible get more promotions, etc., etc. In Eastern culture, people are different. Eastern culture, if someone is too extrovert, we kind of look ke are bhai bahut zyada hai, matlab kuch zyada nahi hai ye, right? So then there is a difference of culture. So there is nothing good or bad, but the whole perspective is there is a cultural acceptance also for which a certain level of behavior. So even in South India, North India, you will see a certain level of acceptance is more towards an introvert versus an extrovert. So these are primarily key three differences. So the question comes automatically in our mind that if you are an introvert or if you're someone who doesn't hesitate to talk to people, or you find better to be on your own rather than being in the group, if these are some of the signs that you are generally in, is sales for you, because we are working, we are discussing in this platform, is sales for you. I think the three things that you need to question yourself here again is that, do you have the ability to communicate? The ability to communicate is not about talking more, talking less, talking all the time, talking first, talking last. It is, can you make your point understood by the other person? Are you ambitious and driven? Second thing, because unless you're ambitious and driven, introverts are also ambitious and driven. It's just that their ambition and drive might be slightly different than extrovert, or they might communicate it differently, or they may not even communicate. But inside, are you ambitious and driven? The third thing is, are you a quick learner? So how quickly are you able to change? So like how Suparna was telling, if she has gone for one session in, or doing some program, is she able to come out of that program and see some 10%, 20% change in her? Is she able to see that? That is a question that she has to ask herself, that if I'm doing some changes, that means I'm progressing, I'm learning, I'm moving. So my behavior, my situation, I'm observing people and I'm seeing how people are doing, and I'm learning from them and I'm moving forward. So the other part, the last part I will bring is that what are the sales tips for introverts? Okay. The eighth is find your energizers. So one of the things is that everyone has their own energizers, and every introvert should find that what energizes them. Is it a bit of writing? Is it a bit of meditation? And after or before if you have to do something very uncomfortable, like go and present in a stage, go in a group and give there is a group of people sitting, a panel sitting, you have to go for the selling and pitching them, then do something before and after which kind of cools your nervous system. Try to build your strategy where you can balance it out. I think with that, let me tell you one more thing, that a study by Adam Grant, who is the author of Give and Take, he said that ambiverts are the best performers. We always have this myth that extroverts are great and they are the one who are performing, but when you go down in the numbers and leadership roles, it's ambiverts who performs the best, right? Whether it's sales, whether it's leadership, because they have the flexibility to switch. So, and more ambiverts are introvert extrovert, which is basically they are more slightly like 60% introvert and 40% extrovert. That kind of combination of people actually thrive better than pure play introverts or pure play extroverts. So that's the last reality of life that we all need to know. And with that, Neha, it's up to you.
So please go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So, now let's move on to the workings of the mind. Okay. Now, there are certain thought patterns which all of us experience. And these thought patterns hit us from time to time. And these thought patterns are negative in nature. They are ruminating in nature. And they may have an impact on our sales performance. Okay. Now, depending upon where you are and who you are in the spectrum from introversion to extroversion, these thought patterns can either stay with you momentarily or they can be a permanent feature of your personality. So what am I talking about? Let me give you 3 examples, and then I'm going to ask you in case you can relate to any of them. Example number 1. This is a make or break deal for me. If this deal doesn't come through, I'm doomed. My future, my career, my reputation, my dreams, my aspirations, everything depends upon this. If this deal doesn't come through, I will be ridiculed. My boss will start looking at me differently. My equation with my boss, it will diminish the trust and confidence he has in me. Ghar mein, as it is, meri relationship messed up hai. In my level, probably I will not even find a new job in this small city. I will have to move another city. Mere bacche jo hain, wo mid of the session mein hai. And maine lease abhi le rakhi hai ghar ki. I am really wondering what will happen if this deal doesn't come through. Example number 1. Example number 2, the client is known to be a hard nut to crack. The client is proud, the client is pessimistic, the client is rude, the client is aggressive, and the client has its own favorites. That is brand XYZ. मेरा तो कोई chance ही नहीं है यहाँ पे. मेरा क्या, किसी का भी कोई chance नहीं है यहाँ पे. Because the client has already decided who it is going to give the job to. यहाँ पे दाल नहीं गलने वाली है, but at the same time, it is a part of my KRA. The client is a great paymaster. I will try nonetheless. Example number 3. I am not confident. I am not fluent in English. I get nervous. I get overwhelmed. And even if my product is great, my services are what the client wants, I will be a failure at selling. There are counterparts, my other counterparts, people who are from the sales from the other division are so fluent. They have such strong communication skills. They are such gracious personalities. I am such a failure, and it is not the company's fault. It is my fault. I am a failure. Go a step further, and you tend to think sometimes that my awards, my achievements, my milestones, whatever status and recognition I have achieved so far is a fluke of fate. I have just been lucky. It is my past karmas, my parents' blessings. मैंने कुछ भी नहीं करा. ये सब भगवान की दया है. And sometimes I feel afraid that it will be all called out. How many of you can relate to what I'm saying? You guys can relate to it. Am I right?
Yes.
Awesome. What is that one situation that you can relate to the most?
You can put it in the chat or unmute and talk.
Probably all of them, for that matter. English wala part. All right, Archana. Thank you so much for that. Brilliant. That is something which is very, very common, as a matter of fact. Now, here is the thing, ladies. You want to know how to deal with these demons, right? These Grinch, as I call them. You want to understand that, and that is exactly what the session is all about. Okay. Now, going back to the example, these are typical thought patterns which are actually cognitive distortions. They are very, very frequent. The first one was called as catastrophic thinking. We simply pick up on a thought and we let it snowball till the time that it becomes overwhelmingly uncontrollable and we let it consume us. The second example was overgeneralization. We've seen in the past this happens. I'm sure in the future the same thing is going to happen. And that takes away the motivational effort from our side. Third was an example of personalization, wherein because of excessive comparison, we end up discounting what is great about us. We end up taking failures personally, and it usually is very, very common in people who are introverts, people who are maybe underconfident, not inherently, but because they have recently met up with a series of failures. Okay. Now, what helps is to be aware of these particular thought patterns. We need to recognize them and we need to nip them right at the bud. How do we go about it? Let us understand the genesis of the negativity in our head. What do you think is the reason that every time we try something new, we try something different, we try something which kind of pushes us beyond our comfort zone, we are greeted by demonic thoughts. We are greeted with negativity and threatening thoughts. What do you think is the reason for that? The reason why we have a brain is so that it can keep us safe. Okay. And we have these thoughts because our brain wants to keep us safe. How does our brain ensure our safety? By giving us these red flags, by giving us these particular thoughts, by giving us sensations of nervousness. And therefore, and it does so how? It does so by way of correlation. Every time you try out something new, it'll light up memory centers in your head. It'll light up those memory centers wherein you tried that particular thing or anything similar to that particular thing for the first time or the last time. For example, in case there is a particular sales pitch which requires you to make a sales presentation, it'll simply take you back in time when you made your first sales presentation or the last sales presentation. Now, if that event was a success, you will have a feeling of excitement within you. Your energy system or your nervous system will give you excitement. But if that event was an embarrassment, then you will have a nervous energy within you. You will feel an acid reflex. You will feel goosebumps. You will probably experience a muscle fatigue or a muscle tension, some kind of an ache and pain. That is your brain's way of giving you a red flag, of telling you कि boss, last time तूने ये try करा था, तेरा band बजा था, इस बार मत कर. That is how your brain keeps you safe. But that is also how your brain tricks you. And that is the reason why we often say that don't think everything that you think. Don't believe every thought that you think. Okay. Now, the reason for that is because we are creating a linear loop. It is not a circular loop that we're creating. It is only a one-way communication that is happening. So, Parna, are you with me so far?
Yes, yes, very much.
Awesome, awesome. If you want this reality to change, you need to start communicating with your brain. You need to start telling your brain that I have grown in my experience. Your brain doesn't know that, you know. Your brain doesn't know that you have grown in experience, you have grown in your skill set, you have grown in your knowledge, you have also grown in your area of expertise. That has to be communicated to your brain. And that is precisely where journaling comes in, where you're talking to yourself comes in, where you're spending time in solitude comes in, where you're, you know, writing down things and making your pride list comes in. Okay. That is the way you speak to your brain and you tell your brain that, boss, aaj maine itna achieve kara hai, I want you to keep a track of it. I am on a growth curve now. And your brain will start keeping a track of the way you are growing now. So the first thing that you girls are going to do after this session gets over is create a list. We've all heard about a to-do list. You are going to create a tada list. A what list? A tada list. T-A-D-A, tada. Pride list. You are going to write down everything that you can remember from your kindergarten. Every simple achievement. Every single thing. Singing a national anthem, going in the stage for the first time, getting straight A's, getting 100 on 100 in maths, probably passing your history exam, every possible thing. And you will create that list. Okay. When you do that, you will create that list and you will keep that list right to your bedside. And you are going to look at that list every single day. That will reinforce the fact to your brain, to your conscious or subconscious, that ye banda growth curve mein hai. Ye banda doesn't want to look back. Ye bande ko aage jana hai. You know, that is going to help you to create that growth mindset within you. When you write things down, ladies, you are releasing the emotion from your head down to the paper so that a new emotional pattern can be formed. This is something which is very important. Half the times we tend to think of things mentally, that we are sorting our life mentally. Nothing is mental. जब तक आप उसको किसी से बात नहीं करते हो, लिखते नहीं हो कहीं, उसका कोई वीडियो नहीं बनाते हो, किसी तरह एक्सप्रेस नहीं करते हो, it remains in your system. And therefore, if you want to create a new thought pattern, you need to release that thought pattern by writing or by creating something like a pride list. Okay, that is how journaling helps you. Now, we've already established the fact that we are negatively wired, right? From an evolutionary perspective, our brains are wired for negativity because it is their functional job to keep us safe, right? Now, in order to keep us safe, our brains are designed to focus on threat before it can focus on treat or happiness or pleasures. And therefore, it is not at all wrong to say that we are designed for negativity. The way to break that circuit is by practicing gratitude. Gratitude is what helps you to break that circuitry and enhance optimism within you. How does that happen? See, when you practice something consciously, consistently, and repeatedly, what happens? It so happens that it turns into a habit. A habit is an automated behavior, okay? Now, when a habit is an automated behavior, it needs to be nurtured and it needs to be supported by new neural pathways. your brain will actually create new neural pathways so that that habit can be restored and it can be sustained. And when those new neural pathways are created, your brain will retain a structure to scan your world, not for the negatives, but for the positives first. And that is how you create optimism. That is how you rub off your nervous energy. That is how you become more and more optimistic, less nervous, more hopeful. And you know where it helps you, especially as sales professional? It helps you in embracing intention. Every time you enter a sales pitch, every time you enter a room, what happens? It so happens that you create an intention. ये मीटिंग बहुत बढ़िया होने वाली है, बड़ी इफेक्टिव होने वाली है, मेरे को बिजनेस मिलने ही वाला है. I used to do that, but I could not embrace that energy completely. I used to say that to myself, my incantations, my affirmations, my everything. But until I started practicing gratitude, that intention, the energy of that intention was half. That energy actually completed when I could surrender to it only when I started practicing gratitude. And therefore, practicing gratitude is actually going to open your mind for a lot of happiness, for a lot of goodness, for a lot of optimism. And that is going to create new thought patterns, and that will pull you out of the negative thought traps. Is everybody with me so far? Is everyone with me so far?
Yes.
Awesome. Yes. Very nice. Good to know that. Good to know that. The other thing that you can do is question negativity, ladies. Okay. The moment you recognize negativity, the moment you feel that shift in your energy, simply ask yourself, who is feeling it? Why am I feeling it? You know, half the time we accept things. Like, for example, Suparna, I'm again, Suparna, I'm giving your example because you were the one who questioned, and I really want it to be addressed. Suparna said that mere ko dar lagta hai when I speak. It took me 15 minutes to formulate that question. Suparna, reject that notion. Do not accept it readily. You are not this person. Simply question your actions and simply question whatever you are speaking. How does it apply to you? When was the last time it applied to you? What did you do in order to change that? Question yourself. Do not accept everything that comes to your head, because then you will have 50 to 80% dirty thoughts in your head, because you will not question and you will not put a stopper to your mindset. You need to selectively open and lock your dimag ka doors. Okay. Now, ladies, this is something which is very, very important for all of us to understand, that negativity is 4 to 7 times more potent than positivity, which is to say that when you're thinking a negative thought, negativity is going to come and stay in your lap until you spank it and until you push it away, because it has an ability to stick. It is like a Velcro, whereas positive emotions are like Teflon. They come, they are light, and they simply go. They do not stay with you. Okay. Now, negativity, nervousness, nervous energy, all these things are going to come and stay with you also because, and let me complete this and then I will tell you why they stay more and more often with you. 4 to 7 times negativity is potent. And when you speak it out loud, it becomes 40 to 70 times, 10 times more potent. And therefore, you simply need to stop cribbing, complaining, whining, and everything else. I'm not asking you to not express yourself. I'm simply asking you to not repeat negative emotions and create a self-fulfilling prophecy for yourself, because that is something which is going to encourage your negative thought traps. Okay. So remember that every time you have a negative thought, it needs to be shunned away immediately. The moment you recognize it, the moment you're aware of it, shun it, question it, and simply shun it away. Because negativity is more potently dangerous and contagious than positivity. Okay? That is point number 3. Now, the reason why we are so, filled with negativity is because our mind remains in a default state or a wandering mind for 50 to 80% of the time in 24 hours. Out of which 35 to 60,000 thoughts that you have every day, which come and go in your mind, 80% of those thoughts are repetitive, are ruminating, are futile, unhappy, and unproductive in nature, ladies. Until you practice mindfulness, until you practice meditation, until you train your minds to not entertain those thoughts, they will come and they will sit on your head, or rather remain in your lap. You need to question them and you need to shun them away. Meditation is going to help you to achieve that. The other thing that will help you is practicing mindfulness. Simply every 1 hour, simply put an alarm and ask yourself, what am I thinking? What am I doing? What am I speaking? Is that in alignment or not? Okay. And as an introvert who is an overthinker, most of us are claiming to be introverts. We are all overthinkers and we love to sit in one place and do. The more active you are, the more in present you remain. And therefore, think less, do more. That is what is going to give you a lot of introverted edge. Okay? Yeah, that is pretty much about how you go about moving, from being an introvert, moving the spectrum and dealing with your mindset and all of that. Now I'll be very happy to take your sessions. And I genuinely believe that an interested introvert who is actually an ambivert can outdo an interesting extrovert for sure any day.
Just to add to somebody who asked about how solopreneurs should be doing this, I am a solopreneur from almost 10, 11 years, 12 years now. And I am a solid introvert. When it comes to work, I'm very happy to go into my shell and work. What I realized, one thing, and coming from my experience, is just find that one extra person as an accountability buddy, or somebody who's an extrovert enough, who understands your introvertness and would support you and grant you that help whenever you need to, upstage yourself. Just that one person with whom you can share and upstage yourself. And please take that help. Do not say no because you are an introvert. Everyone is worthy of getting that support and taking that support.
Yes.
And fantastic session. Sarmistha, I entered when you were halfway in it. And Neha was super powerful. Thank you so much. A lot of tidbits of those small things that we need to keep in mind. A very engaging session. Thank you so much.